"You're coming with me," said the lonely rancher to the woman beaten for giving birth to 3 girls. She didn't cry when the third one came. Not when the contractions tore through her like a rabid dog. Not when the midwife, old and trembling, whispered, "Another girl," and wiped the blood from her thighs with a rag that had already seen too much. Not even when the silence came, thick, heavy, final, and she felt the life slip out of her like water through cracked fingers. She just sat there. Barefoot. In the dirt. Outside the cabin where the wind never stopped howling. 3 small bundles lay beside her, wrapped in torn sheets, tied with twine. Each one smaller than the last. Each one colder. Each one silent. The door behind her creaked open. No footsteps. Just boots. Dusty. Worn. Caked with the red clay of 100 miles. A man stood in the threshold. Tall. Lean. His hat pulled low. His coat stitched with patches from 3 different towns. One sleeve was rolled up. A scar ran from his wrist to his elbow, thin as a knife cut, white as bone. He didn't speak. Didn't move. Just watched her. The sun hung low behind him, bleeding orange across the land. Dust swirled around his boots like ghosts trying to remember their names. She didn't look up. Her hands rested on her knees. Pale. Empty. One finger tapped. Once. Twice. Like a clock counting down to nothing. Then he spoke. His voice didn't boom. It didn't crack. It just broke. "You're coming with me." No name. No reason. No mercy. Just those 4 words, carried on the wind like a prayer no God would answer. Behind them, the cabin groaned. A single window shattered inside, not from wind. From something heavier. Something broken. A baby's rattle. Still hanging from the nail by the bed. She hadn't touched it. Didn't need to. The wind picked up again. Dust stung her eyes. She blinked. And for the first time since the 3rd child died, she breathed. Not because she wanted to. But because he said it. "You're coming with me." It wasn't a question. It wasn't kindness. It was a command carved from the same earth that buried her daughters. She didn't nod. Didn't stand. Didn't cry. She just reached out. Slow. Shaking. And took the smallest bundle. Held it to her chest. Like it still had a heartbeat. The man stepped forward. 1 step. Then another. Kneeled. Not in prayer. In surrender. He pulled off his gloves. Revealed hands roughened by rope, gunpowder, and grief. He didn't touch her. Didn't try to take the child. Just placed his palm flat on the dirt between them. Like an offering. Like a grave marker. The coyotes started howling then. Not far. Not close. Just, listening. Waiting. To see what the world would do next. She didn't move. He didn't either. The sun dropped. Darkness pooled at their feet. And somewhere, deep in the cabin, a bell rang. Not church. Not wind. A child's toy. Still swinging. Still singing. Even though no one was left to hear it. The man stood. Turned. Walked away. Not toward the horses. Not toward the road. Just, walked. Into the dust. As if he'd been walking all his life. And now, finally. He had found someone worth walking with. She stayed. For a long time. Long enough for the stars to come out. Long enough for the wind to carry the smell of burnt sage and wet earth. long enough for the silence to become louder than any scream. Then, slowly, she rose. One foot. Then the other. Bare. Bloodied. Alive. And followed. They rode for 7 days. No names exchanged. No stories told. Just hooves on hard ground. The creak of leather. The rustle of wind through dry grass. He called himself Elias Crow. She never said anything. Not when he gave her water from his canteen. Not when he offered her his coat, the one lined with rabbit fur, frayed at the edges. Not when he stopped at a dead town and dug a hole beneath a crooked cross, saying, "This is where I buried my daughter." She looked at the grave. Didn't kneel. Didn't weep. Just stared. Like she was waiting for the dirt to move. Elias didn't ask why she kept the bundles. Didn't ask why she slept with them curled against her ribs. Didn't ask why she never washed her hair. It was full of dust. Clotted with sweat. Sticky with salt and sorrow. He knew. Some wounds don't need words. Some only need someone who won't look away. On the 5th night, they camped under a sky so clear it hurt. Firelight danced on his face. He sharpened his knife. She sat across from him, rocking gently. One hand on her stomach. The other holding the smallest bundle. "You ever have children?" she asked. Her voice was raw. Like gravel dragged over stone. Elias didn't look up. "I had one," he said. "Girl. 5 years old. Name was Lillian." He paused. The fire popped. A spark flew into the dark. She laughed like a bell. He set the knife down. Looked at her. For the first time. Really looked. Her eyes were hollow. But not empty. There was something in them. Something alive. "I killed her," he said. Silence. The wind stopped. Even the crickets held their breath. Elias swallowed. "My wife got sick. Fever. Took her fast. Left us alone. Lillian," she cried every night. Said she missed Mama. Said she was scared of the dark. He rubbed his thumb over his knuckles. "The sheriff came through. Said we needed help. That I was unfit. That a man couldn't raise a girl right." He exhaled. "So I let him take her." He looked at the fire. 2 weeks later, they found her in the river. He didn't say more. Didn't need to. She knew. He didn't fight. He didn't run. He just let go. Just like she did. With her girls. She reached into her dress. Pulled out a button. Small. White. From a dress. From a child. She held it out. Elias didn't take it. Just stared. "Mine," she whispered. He nodded. Once. Then he stood. Walked to his horse. Unslung his rifle. Set it gently on the ground. Then he sat back down. Close. Not touching. But close enough to share the warmth. They didn't speak again that night. But when the coyotes cried, she didn't flinch. And he didn't reach for his gun. Blackwater wasn't a town. It was a mistake. Built on lies and whiskey. Its saloon had a piano missing 2 keys. Its church bell rang every Sunday, for no one. Its well was dry. Its people were hungry. And its sheriff? He wore a gold tooth. And smiled like he knew secrets God forgot to tell. They arrived at dusk. Elias paid for 2 rooms at the livery stable. The owner spat on the floor. "Woman's bad luck," he muttered. 3 girls. No son. Land curses, M. Elias didn't answer. Just counted out silver coins. 12. One for each day they'd ridden. The man took them. Smiled. Then leaned in. Best keep her inside. Or we'll make sure she never walks again. That night, Elias brought bread. A loaf. Half eaten. Saved from his own meal. He placed it on the table. She didn't move. Sat by the window. Watching the moon. He ate half. Left the rest. In the morning, it was gone. Not eaten. Cut. Into 4 pieces. Each piece the size of a child's fist. One for each girl. She'd laid them side by side on the floor. Like a funeral. Elias found them. Kneeled. Didn't speak. Just picked up the smallest piece. Held it. Like it might still be warm. At noon, the preacher came. Tall. Thin. Skin like parchment. He stood in the doorway. Held a Bible upside down. Said, God takes what he doesn't want. Elias didn't rise. Didn't turn. Just said, you ain't God. The preacher smiled. Then left. That night, someone lit a torch. Threw it at the stable. Flames licked the wood. Smoke choked the air. People gathered. Watched. Laughed. A boy screamed. Then stopped. Elias grabbed her arm. Ran. Shots cracked. A man fell. Someone yelled, burn the witch. She didn't run. Stopped. Turned. Looked back. At the fire. At the crowd. At the preacher holding the Bible. At the sheriff raising his revolver. And then, she walked toward them. Barefoot. Hands open. Elias screamed her name. But she didn't hear him. Not anymore. She knelt in the ashes. Picked up a charred crucifix. Pressed it to her chest. The sheriff raised his pistol. Barrel gleamed. Elias drew. But he didn't aim at the man. He aimed at the ground. Between them. One shot. The bullet struck dirt. Dust exploded. Everyone froze. Even the fire paused. The sheriff lowered his gun. Eyes wide. Not with fear. With recognition. Because he saw it. The same thing Elias saw. In her eyes. The same thing he'd seen in his daughters. Before the river took her. The preacher whispered, she's blessed. Elias didn't move. Didn't lower his gun. Just whispered back, no, she's cursed. Then he turned. Took her hand. And walked into the smoke. They didn't sleep that night. Just rode. Through canyons. Past graves marked with stones. No names. Just dates. And sometimes, here lies a girl who never cried. Elias didn't speak. She didn't either. But her hand stayed in his. Cold. Weak. Real. By dawn, the land opened. Flat. Endless. Empty. Ahead, a railroad track. Gone quiet. Tracks rusted. No trains in years. But ahead, a church. White. Cracked. Bell hanging crooked. Its doors stood open. Inside, candles burned. Not for worship. For memory. They dismounted. Walked in. The air smelled of beeswax and rot. Pews splintered. A hymn book lay open. Page torn. Words scribbled in ink, we buried our sins here. But they walked out. She went to the altar. Knelt. Put her forehead to the wood. Elias stood behind her. Hand on his revolver. Not to kill. To hold. To remind himself, he could still choose. The bell above them rang. Not by wind. Not by ghost. By hand. A woman stepped from the shadows. Old. Wrinkled. Hair like spider silk. She wore a shawl stitched with buttons. All white. All small. All matching. She looked at Elias. Then at her. Been waiting, the woman said. Who are you? Elias asked. The woman smiled. Mother Superior of the Silent Sisters. She lifted her shawl. Beneath it, dozens of tiny dresses. All sizes. All colors. All stained. All girls, she whispered. All abandoned. All buried. She pointed to the wall. Photographs. Faded. Torn. Girls. All with the same hollow eyes. All with the same silence. She's not the first, the woman said. And she won't be the last. Elias stepped forward. Then why'd you leave? The woman looked at him. Because I thought I could save them. She turned to the girl. Can you save her? Elias didn't answer. Just unbuttoned his coat. Revealed his chest. Scars. Burns. A bullet wound near his heart. Lillian, he said. I buried her under oak trees. But I didn't bury my guilt. He looked at the girl. I'm not here to save you. He knelt. Took her hand. I'm here to walk with you. The woman wept. Then turned. Walked back into the shadows. Leaving only the bell. And the candles. And the silence. Elias pulled her close. Whispered, I'm sorry. She didn't speak. Just lifted her head. And kissed his cheek. Warm. Dry. Final. Then she stood. Walked to the bell. Grabbed the rope. Pulled. It didn't ring. Just creaked. Like a dying breath. She pulled again. Harder. The rope snapped. The bell fell. Crashed. Dust rose. And in the silence, she whispered, let them hear. Elias drew his revolver. Aimed. Not at the walls. Not at the windows. At the floor. At the space between them. One shot. The bullet hit stone. Chipped. Sparked. Lit the candle nearest her. It flared. Bright. Then went out. And in that moment, she smiled. Not happy. Not sad. But with truth. And then, she walked out. Into the light. Elias didn't follow. Not yet. He stayed. Kneeled. Picked up the broken bell. Pressed it to his chest. Like she pressed the crucifix to hers. And whispered, I'm sorry I waited too long. He found her coat on a fence post. Hanging like a flag. No sign of struggle. No blood. Just the wind. And the button. Inside the pocket. Small. White. From a dress. From a child. He slipped it into his own coat. Then rode. Following her trail. Footprints. Fading. In the sand. Past dry rivers. Past bones. Past graves with no names. At the edge of the world, where the land turned to dust and the sky bled purple, he saw her. Sitting on a hill. Barefoot. Feet cracked. Soles black with dirt. Her hair tangled with thorns. Her dress torn. Her skin pale as bone. She didn't turn. Didn't move. Just stared at the horizon. Where the storm was coming. Clouds rolled like iron ships. Thunder growled. Lightning flickered. Elias dismounted. Walked to her. Kneeled. Didn't touch. Didn't speak. Just waited. The wind bit. He shivered. She didn't. Then, she held out her hand. In it, 3 wildflowers. Dried. Dead. Petals brittle. Stems twisted. Beautiful. He took them. Didn't speak. Just pressed them to his chest. Next to the button. Next to the bell. She whispered, I didn't cry for them. He nodded. I know. I didn't want to live. He swallowed. I know. But you came. He looked at her. Eyes wet. Voice raw. I didn't come to save you. She closed her eyes. I know. I came because I needed to see if, he hesitated. Then whispered, if maybe, someone else could still love me. She opened her eyes. Looked at him. For the first time. Really looked. Then, she reached out. Touched his cheek. Her fingers were cold. But her touch, it burned. She smiled. Not with joy. Not with peace. But with truth. And then, she stood. Walked toward the storm. No shoes. No coat. No fear. Elias didn't call after her. Didn't beg. Didn't chase. He just watched. Until she vanished. Into the rain. Into the wind. Into the dark. And then, he stood. Turned. Walked back to his horse. Mounted. Rode away. Not to forget. Not to heal. But to remember. Every step. Every breath. Every silent scream. Years passed. They say a man still rides the desert. Old. Limping. Hat pulled low. Coat stitched with buttons. Always carrying 3 dried flowers. And a broken bell. They say he talks to the wind. Says the same thing every night. I'm sorry I waited too long. They say if you listen real close, when the coyotes cry. And the train whistles echo. You can hear her. Soft. Quiet. Answering. I know. Wind howls. Train whistle fades into silence. One last coyote cries. Then, silence.